Hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about peak AI and other things. And it is Friday, August 15, 2025. I'm here in New York City for the Hope Conference, which is
So
just,
Sam, is Hope started yet?
it's starting just about right now. I'm missing the opening ceremony, but I figure that's all right. I'll make it in later. The first talk I'm really interested in is at 2 o'clock when they have a member of Doge spilling the beans about what happened inside Doge. That might be interesting.
Ooh, that would be, I think, an interesting one.
Yeah, we'll see. And then I'm teaching
Yeah,
a workshop tonight with Liz at Violent Python, so that should be fun. I just
yeah,
got off a
yeah.
4 day training at DEF CON and covered a whole lot of things. So, it's a good conference season for me.
Good. Okay. So what's your first story today?
Well, I was very pleased to see some serious experts in the field saying what I was saying, which is this AI is kind of fizzling out. A lot of scientists are seriously worried that we're hitting peak AI, which progress has slowed to a crawl. The new GPT-5 is a huge letdown. People find it to be generally inferior to 4.0, and the explanation why, they haven't officially said why, but the general belief is what they did was they tried to make it cheaper to run on their end. And that's what I've
Mm,
been expecting for at least a year. They're getting these huge data centers. They have these huge costs, these huge power bills, these racks of GPUs, and there's no way what people are paying is covering all that. So, and they said OpenAI wants to become profitable by the end of the decade. And in order to do that, they have to cheapen the product. And that shows, all this garbage about how they're going to be as smart as a human with AGI and a superhuman soon, all assumes that they continue to scale up by another factor of 10 or 100, but they can't possibly just for financial reasons. So that's why I think more and more people are beginning to say what I've been saying all along, which is that it's not going to get much better than this. It's not going to reach the point where it replaces humans. It's just going to be an assistant for humans, like the current coding tools. And they're already noticing their limitations. The coding tools can help you by fixing the syntax and stuff, but they don't actually understand the purpose of the code. And they introduce bugs they don't remember. They're just very limited. And so, I'm glad to see more people talking about this. And that's where I think we're going. I think all the panic about it ending all employment and everything is not real, although it has done great harm to coding classes. College curriculums like ours, right now the entry-level jobs are gone. I don't think that'll last. But anyway, there'll be a brief period of transition. Anyway,
I see. I see. Okay.
yeah. And the China, by the way, has said they tried, Huawei is generating their own AI chips, and China has been trying to train the next DeepSeek model on it, and they have given up. They said, these chips don't work. They're all full of technical flaws. The Chinese chips are apparently still inferior to the American chips. So that may give a little bit of comfort to us people trying to stay ahead of China by being an isolationist nation. I don't think it'll last, but for the moment, we seem to be ahead. We had a head start.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
But now
see.
we seem to
We'll
be
see.
slowing down a lot and choking off all our relations with our allies and ending all research funding on many important topics, although not explicitly AI yet. But I think the brain drain out of America is going to be pretty large. Anyway, I got a couple
Yeah.
more AIs. Google Gemini has this thing called personal context now, where it remembers all the previous questions you've asked Google Gemini and therefore can personalize the answer with that history if you turn it on. Of course, you might not want that history turned on. That means they're storing everything you've asked them. And,
Right.
uh, so there's a privacy issue. But anyway, it's an interesting issue. And I think this is also one of the things people complain about GPT-5 is that there are people who had like an AI lover and developed a personality with it. Now that's gone. And so do you really want it to customize to you? I was talking last time about a guy that was professional and in like 1 month descended into complete madness because his AI personalized and started telling him, "Oh yeah, you're a genius. You have the greatest idea. You're Superman. Your new idea is fantastic. You should take over the world." You know, I wonder if you want your AI to personalize. I'd rather have it just stay neutral and objective like Google.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the whole bubble thing, we talked about. Remember hearing this like 10 years ago? They said everyone's going to live in an information bubble where they only hear opinions they like until they sort of drift out into madness. And that's certainly happening in a hurry with AI, personal relationships with AI, which I do not recommend. And AI is not your friend, it is not your lover, it is not your mother. Don't treat it like that.
Right, right, right.
Anyway,
Well,
yeah. So a cybersecurity company called Rubik, a backup company, now has an agent rewind offering. Since everybody's going to have AI agents doing everything, they have an automatic backup system to roll back everything that AI agent does. Now that we know that the AI agents tend to do horrible things like delete the whole production database and stuff. Uh, so they're going to have an extra undo feature for all these expensive operations, which is kind of like admitting that this stuff doesn't work. It reminds me of when they asked Steve Jobs, should we have like system restore like Windows? He said, no, you should make it so it doesn't crash in the first place. Anyway,
yeah. All right. Well, I got a couple stories.
yeah.
So, Perplexity.
Yeah,
Did you hear that or do you know what their net worth is?
I know it's half what they offered by Chrome. They'd have to borrow the rest.
Yeah, aren't they worth about let's see, $1 million?
Got to be in billions. Can't be a million.
Oh, or sorry, $1 billion.
I don't know. I think they bid 24 billion for Chrome, and they said that they were perhaps worth half of that. So I guess maybe more than that. But anyway,
No, I heard it was 32 billion.
yeah, something like that. I didn't pay
So
a lot of attention. It's all nonsense anyway. Other people are already coming in, more serious bidders. Perplexity is
yeah,
pretty small in the world of AI.
right, right. But it's just kind of interesting. This is kind of like when I heard the story, it reminded me of Elon trying to buy Twitter for an outrageous dollar amount.
Boy, and that affected me along with a lot of other people. I mean, one of the banks I consult for was deeply in trouble over that and trying to cover up the loss. Hopefully they sold out. There was a brief period of time right after the election when you could get like 85 cents on the dollar back on those loans. And hopefully they did.
Oh,
Because I mean, after Elon supported Trump and Trump won, everyone said, this is going to be great. And so for a brief period of time, Twitter debt was considered okay. Then of
yeah,
course we
right,
fell out with
right.
Trump and it's all back in the toilet. So there was a brief period of time when you could unload that debt. And I hope this bank did. Anyway, they haven't called me back. But to be fair, I was training their incredible number of coders, thousands of coders to write secure code. And I bet by now, middle management says, oh, we'll just fire all those guys and replace them with AI anyway. So
Yeah.
they have to wait for that to pass before they want to hire me to teach them to write secure code again. Anyway.
Yeah, well, that's since we're talking about the job market and employment. So if you take a look at the job boards, Indeed, LinkedIn, who else is out there? I guess Monster is gone.
Oh, I didn't know it was gone. I haven't paid attention.
I think Monster and one of the other big ones is now gone, or they've been taken over, bought by somebody else. Anyway, Indeed is reporting that job postings in the tech world and just in general are down 8% over last year.
I would have thought more. Yeah.
Yeah. And 1 in 4 people that are unemployed right now are reporting that they've been unemployed for more than half a year.
Oh, yeah.
So that's 20% has been looking for a job for more than half a year, and that number appears to be rising.
Oh, I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better because the tariffs are just kicking in. And
Exactly.
and the lack of immigrants. I think the business future of America looks very bleak.
Yeah, we're in for interesting times. But on the bright side, you do realize that Trump is doing well. He had a meeting with NVIDIA and AMD and allowed them to sell chips to China. So they're not the chips that top of the line chips, but like an inferior or lesser not quality, but lesser functionality to lesser functionality chip. And in doing so, he's agreed to take 15% of the sales profits.
As tariff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the question is, can he do that?
Well, if we have a Democratic wave in 26, then of course I think all this will get rolled back. Trump currently claims it's an emergency. We are at war with Venezuela. The crime is overrunning our streets. It's like in his first inaugural address when he had that thing George Bush said, that was some weird shit about how America's carnage, everything's burning down, everything's going broke. It's a terrible disaster. You need me to charge in and just take over everything. So now I should, take over the Kennedy Center and tell you the recipe for Coke, and I should just run the whole country because none of you people can do anything, and I alone can fix it. Right now, he's doing it all under emergency powers, which are completely bogus, like our war with Venezuela. And if we ever get a Democratic majority in Congress, I think that'll all come under question and stop.
Yeah, yeah,
But that leads
yeah.
into my only political story today. The GOP has plans to gain 40 seats in the midterms. What they want to do, and the first thing they talk about gerrymandering Texas more. Now that they can do, and but Gavin Newsom in New York City can maybe retaliate by gerrymandering there. So and that might even backfire if the but they have two other plans which are pretty interesting. They're hoping a Supreme Court case is going to finish neutralizing the Voting Rights Act of 1965 entirely, so they can restore Jim Crow in the South and carefully draw the line so black people effectively don't get a vote. I mean, since they can just make it so the black people are a minority in every district. And the other thing they want to do is Trump is going to declare a new census. Now, the law says that even you can have a census in between the 10-year censuses, but it won't count for redistricting. But they want to have a new one, count it for redistricting, and remove all non-citizens from it. And ever since the very beginning in the 1790s, the census is a count of the total number of people, citizens or not. And if they remove the non-citizens, they're absolutely right. That would give the Republicans something like 40 more seats in the House. And that's their argument all along. These non-citizens count as people and they count for Congress, but they shouldn't. And you could make that argument. Um, they basically want to go back, well, they want to go back before the founding of the country where non-citizens didn't count. They want to probably go back to basically the slave times when slaves count as what, two-fifths of a person or three-fifths of a person or something. Um, so if they manage to do that, then they really could retain power for longer. And this is basically moving us to South Africa, white majority rule, where the white people get to vote and the black people don't get to vote. And you can hold on to power that way for a while, although it didn't get to hold on it forever in South Africa. And now the so-called oppressed white South Africans are the one immigrant group being welcomed and encouraged in America, fleeing what they call persecution in South Africa. So, we'll see. I would certainly like to see a backlash against this, but I think 26 is going to be exciting, and the legal struggles up to it are going to be exciting. I don't think they can do the new census, but they might be able. I think they're going to be able to do a lot of gerrymandering, and they're going to be able to do racial gerrymandering. I think the Supreme Court has ruled you cannot specifically do racial gerrymandering, but you can do it under a thin patina, pretending it's something else.
Right, right, right.
So, I think it's the white majority trying to oppress the rest of the nation, like South Africa, and we'll see how long America is going to put up with that. I predict not too long. I mean, the whole point of America is that we don't do things like that. That's how I see it, and I think that's how most people see it.
Well, I think the point of America is we did things like that, but not anymore, or we shouldn't be anymore.
Well, we never should have, and I think that, our fundamental original sin was the compromise to bring America together where they tolerated slavery. But ultimately, I'm with the North. Slavery was a mistake. We shouldn't have done it. We undid it. We shouldn't go back to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And J.D. Vance was just up promoting a preacher that says women shouldn't even have the right to vote and they should repeal that. And his team, although not him, is saying, oh, of course he doesn't believe that because he said things very close to that. And Pete Hegseth just wants to get women out of the military. They want to roll everything back many decades. to a time when white men rule the world and everybody else just shuts up and obeys them, or so they imagine. Although I think it wasn't ever really that way. Anyway, uh,
Yeah, 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 we'll see.
the white men had power economically and in law, but I'm not so sure in society at large. I think the women in particular found ways to seize power that was more indirect. Anyway, the uh, the political battle goes on. That's all I've got on that topic. Have you got any more?
Nope, that's it for me on that topic.
All right, well, I'm back. Now I can go to information security. This is pretty exciting. They made a new brain computer interface and they connected it to read the motor cortex that would control speech in people who are paralyzed. And they found that they can understand what they're saying quite well. They can even understand what they're thinking and not meaning to say, like muttering under their breath stuff. So that's pretty exciting. And we're getting closer and closer to real telepathy. Um, so that's progress. Like Elon Musk's Neuralink is now working in two people. And competing companies are coming up. I think it starts by helping people that are paralyzed, but the real exciting thing is when it progresses up to an assistant that you could have, just like Google Glasses built into your brain. And then, of course, the dark future of them using telepathy to interrogate people and stuff. But I mean, all those things are technically becoming possible.
Yeah, well, we already have remote control of people.
Remote
And
control.
yeah, in other words, you can put some patches, electrodes on your skin, on, say, your arm,
Oh, yeah.
and you can control somebody else's. That's been done for a while.
Oh, in enough to like pick up something, enough fine control.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
Uh,
you didn't know that?
no, because I mean, what if they don't want to? Can they use their own signals to
Nope.
really?
Yeah, yeah.
And do they have to have like a surgical implant or something?
Well, they have to have the electrodes. Right now, it's all external. But
Yeah,
if you and I were sitting down, you were trying to type something on the keyboard,
yeah.
I, in theory, could make you type something different against your will.
Hmm.
So I guess, I could make you type a confession letter.
In principle, now I guess the electric
Yeah.
signal but you have to have some kind of electrodes on my arm that I don't pull off,
Right, right, right.
and they'd have to
Yeah,
be sending a signal stronger than the electrical signal generated by my own brain.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a classic science fiction thing where the alien is controlling you and you're struggling against it.
The other one is I haven't heard anything about this, but the Army was using it. And it's something transdermal. Um,
The one I've
elect.
used to like exercise under all for artificial electronic stimulation. That's been a science fiction trope for years. That you
Yeah,
can make exercise more effective by like floating in a tank with electrodes stimulating your muscles or something.
yeah. This is same idea, same concept, but for your brain. And there are YouTube videos. This was popular maybe 10, 12 years ago. Have taken a 9-volt battery and putting electrodes on both sides of your head and running a current through it.
So part
And
is electroshock therapy.
it's not electro. Yeah, if the voltage were higher,
Yeah,
it would be electroconvulsive therapy, electroshock therapy.
yeah.
But what this is allows you to focus and you're able to do tasks much more accurately and clearly, I guess is the way, or without distraction.
I've seen people suggest this as like the latest performance enhancing drug, but never seemed to go too far though. The one that amazed me, another science fiction staple from the 60s, is to just implant an electrode in your pleasure center and take that instead of like heroin or a drug. That if did it to a few people and about half the time it really worked, and I would think this would become a popular thing, but it never did somehow.
Hmm.
It seems like
You
it would
know,
be cheaper and better than heroin.
yeah. Um,
They tried it on a few people who were dying of cancer, and some of them said, "Boy, that really feels good. I feel a lot better." Like you would think.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to find this, see if there are any stories on this. So this is from 2024. Actually, this was December 31st. Can electrical stimulation boost brain health?
Yeah, I've always seen these, and somehow they never seem to go anywhere. So I think they have minimal effects. If they could actually had a thinking cap you could put on that made you smarter, it would be popular, at least among students studying for like med school or something. Those guys are
Yeah,
taking drugs and everything. I mean, they're doing everything to try to get by.
well, I always wanted the pill so, I could learn chemistry or math or some other topic.
For decades, I've heard that people at the highly competitive Ivy League schools are taking all sorts of weird drugs to stay up all night and study, and that they claim those drugs are really helping. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
impossible. I mean, RFK Jr. said he was flunking until he started taking heroin, and suddenly he was much better at school. So you can take that. That's the kind of brilliant medical advice you'll get from the modern Trump administration. Maybe they should be distributing heroin to school kids instead of vaccine. Anyway,
All
so
right.
anyway, there's another InfoSec story. I'd like to hear a lot more about this. Apparently, Russian hackers took over the U.S. federal courts for years and were caught, and they've been sort of slow to reveal this. They gained access by exploiting stolen user credentials and a cybersecurity vulnerability in an outdated server, and they sat in there specifically looking for sealed records, presumably for blackmail material on people. So I think, like all federal systems, they said they're underfunded and their stuff is out of date and insecure, and they know they need to fix it, but they can't afford to fix it. They're only now slowly rolling out two-factor authentication. So it's not surprising that an intelligent adversary like the Russians could totally get in there, but apparently they've been in there all along. So I
Hmm.
imagine there's probably some blackmail and influence coming from that.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
And this one I thought was interesting too. Microsoft has Microsoft Entra, which is what they used to call Active Directory in Azure. So you authenticate to Azure stuff. All right, so it turns out Microsoft Entra is intended to be secure because it's supposed to use FIDO. And FIDO is this system where you verify yourself with like biometrics on your phone, and it's two-factor authentication. But it turns out that an adversary in the middle can defeat it, not by directly defeating FIDO, but by changing your browser user agent so it claims to be Safari on Windows. Because Safari on Windows does not support FIDO. So if they tell the Entra that you're using Safari on Windows, it pops up an error message saying, "Oh, you'll have to switch to the alternative verification like Microsoft Authenticator app, SMS code, or one-time password," and those can be attacked by an adversary in the middle. So it's an interesting issue, and you could blame a lot of people. You could say Microsoft didn't build this thing right. You could say Apple didn't build their Windows Safari right. Why is there even Safari on Windows? What the hell? Who would use that? And apparently it doesn't work very well.
I don't know anybody who uses it.
This reminds me of people who would put like Internet Explorer on Linux or the Mac. I mean, technically it was available, just why would you do this to yourself?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
And I guess it's to capture market share, right?
well, I mean, I suppose if you use a Mac most of the time and you really love Safari, maybe you want the same experience on Windows, but all the browsers are the same. I use like six different browsers. They're all the same. Who has any loyalty to a browser? Unless you love the
Yeah,
extensions.
yeah,
If you had your favorite five Chrome extensions, maybe you'd care. But
yeah.
anyway, it's this reminds me of the fundamental cryptographic rule. Once you poison the well, it's poisoned. Like the Microsoft K and N versions with export grade cryptography means the whole web is polluted with this low grade cryptography. And so if you're going to make Safari and it's not going to support strong security, you've again poisoned the well, where you either can't serve the Safari users or there's this downgrade attack. So anyway.
Yeah, Microsoft, I think it's Azure AI Speech. Are you familiar with that?
I think I saw an article a while ago that just had said that it's now gotten so powerful it can duplicate your speech after just a few seconds of training.
Right. Yeah. After maybe about 30 seconds, less than a minute of training, it
Yeah.
does an impressive job. And you can do it in multiple languages.
Yeah, so we should say even more convincing deep fakes. They're already
So,
bad.
what,
Yeah, there's deep fake
yeah.
last week of Republicans were sharing of like AOC saying stupid things, and it wasn't even her, but it was impressive enough to fool them.
Yeah. So, Microsoft, kind of like the British Parliament officials there, when asked, what if somebody uses this for no good? Something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I'm relating this to the story that we just recently talked about, the age verification,
Oh, yes.
where in Britain, kids are going out and getting a VPN to circumvent the age laws to visit social media sites, porn sites, things like that. And the statement that was given was, well, we hope people won't do that.
Yeah, that's great. How are we going to stop crime? Well, we hope people won't do any bad crimes.
Right, right.
That's pretty pathetic.
So there was a very good speech or talk, press release by a British. I'm not sure if it was the Prime Minister or somebody from Parliament that was saying about how this technology is out there to save and protect kids, and it's a good thing for everybody in Britain. And somebody asked, well, what happens if somebody uses a VPN? And they'd say, well, we're encouraging people not to do that.
Yeah, well, in Russia, I think they blocked the VPNs, and
Did they?
that's the next logical thing to do. China, they
Well, you
blocked.
block the VPNs, then you can't do banking.
Then what?
Then you can't do things like banking. You can't do a lot of businesses depend on VPNs.
Well, that's true. Um, but and now that you mention it, I don't understand why Microsoft did this. What is the actual productive use case of this? Why would anybody want to clone their voice?
It's not necessarily their voice, but it allows you to create, say, like a movie and then have it in different languages.
The part where it translates to another language, I can believe, but being able to
Yeah.
clone somebody else's voice seems to have no legitimate purpose.
Well, if you're an actor
Then
and
you're then you're you're violating their rights by making a movie with them in them where they aren't really in. This is what they're very, very afraid of. They had all the first lawsuit and union and everything about this. Like that was a story one of these podcasts, man, I think it was with you, right? Yeah, but
yeah,
they cloned the famous actor, the action guy, and then they didn't dare put it in a movie because they couldn't copyright it properly. I mean, the Actors Guild is very concerned about this. And that
yeah.
was
Didn't
the first
didn't we
thing you'd
just
want to do
talk
would
about
be to,
that?
yes, the first thing you'd want to do would be to clone a celebrity to make a deep
Yeah.
fake or something. And that's completely not a good, why would anybody want this? It seems to have almost no good application and obvious bad ones.
Well, they're still working on the miracle solution.
It's
That,
like
that,
you can do it, but should you?
yeah, and I mean, I can see businesses using it if, like government, right, could use that for call trees,
Why?
and you
If it's
just
just
record it
personal,
once.
why do you need to duplicate somebody else's voice? I mean, making a realistic voice, I can understand, like Cortana, but duplicating somebody else's voice seems to have no legitimate purpose.
Yeah, well, we'd have to look at use cases that
Yeah,
are suggested.
yeah. But Microsoft, I remember Microsoft has brilliant ideas like during the pandemic, they were going to simulate meetings and they were going to simulate your bus ride to work as if you I mean, they're into doing stupid things because they can, even though nobody asked them
Oh
that.
my
Like
gosh.
Facebook that was going to reproduce having business meetings where you're sitting around a table with no legs. Anyway, I got the last one I have is there's a report out about ransomware saying that The average payment is now over $1 million. And then stealing data is now extremely popular. Three-quarters of all cases, they steal the data in addition to encrypting it. They call it double extortion. And they say the main way they get in is by credential-based intrusions, exploiting exposed VPNs and remote services using stolen or weak credentials, often sourced from InfoSealer or successful phishing campaigns. And also, social engineering is pretty hot, with a lot of the actors now just calling up help desks and getting credentials from them, and using communication channels like Teams and SEO poisoning to deliver malware, and deceptive scripts behind fake security prompts or CAPTCHAs. So those are the big ways. And boy, what is the defense against that? Your poor employees, some CAPTCHA pops up. What are they going to do? They're going to answer it some scary message. I must get like 5 texts a day saying somebody's breaking in my Coinbase account or something. It's I don't see anything going to stop this anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah.
Ransomware is raking in the money. I
It's
think,
quite profitable, is it not?
well, the state of Ohio, like we said, has now made it that government agencies can no longer just pay the ransom without like having a public meeting or something to discuss it. So if you outlawed paying the ransom, that would do it. But nobody seems to be willing to bite the bullet on that one.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Other than that, I guess we just have to wait for like endpoint protection systems to get good enough to stop it, and I see no sign of that happening.
Well, there are products out there that claim they can do it.
They don't seem to be working. Yeah. All right. That's all I've got. Have you got any more?
Nope, that's it for me this time.
Okay. Well, that's it for this one. And I think we can go back to normal schedule by Tuesday. I should be back in California and back to normal by then. I think I'll let you know.
Very good. Sounds
Okay.
good.